In the fall of 2004, they start at NYU. So Ashley is now in the same city as Matt Kaplan, so I'm thinking long distance wasn't the problem, Ashley. But anyways, apparently this was their dream college. They were always set to go to college together, and they were supposed to be roommates. They got a huge apartment in New York, not on campus, of course. These girls in the grimy dorms, no. But then they decided that they actually should live apart. So after full-on designing everything for that apartment, they went their separate ways and lived separately. And they said it was a very good decision for them. So fair enough. And they were in the individualized study school at NYU. They wanted to explore a lot of different things, especially because they said they didn't do any electives in high school because their elective was they were making movies. So Ashley was doing architecture and psychology, and Mary-Kate did photography mostly. Mary-Kate also broke up with her boyfriend, Dave Katzenberg, because she was going to college. And a lot of people bet that they would stop being so wholesome in college. There was even some countdowns on websites to when they were going to become like bad girls. But it hadn't happened so far. And then Ashley starts dating Scott Sartiono. And Scott is 30 years old. She's 18. That's weird, Scott. It's really weird. And yes, we will begin to see a pattern because she clearly prefers older men. And Ashley actually met Scott through John Stamos, who asked him to keep an eye on them while he was in New York. And I'm not sure that that's what he had in mind, but originally he claimed that there was nothing romantic going on because she's 18 and he's 30. But turns out that there was. And he was a nightclub owner, and apparently both girls went to the nightclub with him a lot while they were dating, though everybody who saw them there said that they didn't drink, so that sounds like not super fun, to be honest. And Mary-Kate also had a brief fling with his business partner friend, Ali Fatorchi. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he was 28, so a little bit younger, but still not really cool. They didn't date very long, though. She got sick of the club lifestyle and of tabloids saying that he was hanging out with supermodels that were older. Of course, if they're older than 18, they'd be older than her. Taller, probably, because she's 5'1", and prettier, no. And I was scared of frat boys at 18, so yeah, I wouldn't want to share my boyfriend with supermodels. I don't think anyone's going to blame Ashley for that one, but there was still more drama to come with Scott. Because in the beginning of 2005, the National Enquirer published a story that was titled, Ashley Olsen Caught in Drug Scandal. But actually, she wasn't at all. In reality, the whole article was about how Scott, her ex-boyfriend, was caught in a possible drug dealing situation. And then they also just added in a photo of Ashley where she looked like she might be intoxicated. Clearly, they just wanted a headline. But Ashley turned around and real quick sued their ass for $40 million because it obviously had nothing to do with her. And yeah, good for her. And he also, Scott, later had an embezzlement scandal. So again, good for her for getting out of that shit fast. Mary-Kate also had a love interest at this time. It was Stavros. He's 20. He's a Greek shipping heir. You may have heard his name before. We'll get into that a little bit later. But right now, we just know they're dating. He's friends with a lot of the celebrities their age. She introduced him to her good friend Paris Hilton, and that ended up being a mistake. Ashley was also spotted out with a new man later in 2005. That new man was Jared Leto. It was unclear if they were actually together at this time. People thought it was more a friends with benefits situation. And I do think he was just a convenient middleman in between relationships. And we will see him again. So don't say goodbye. Just say see you later to Jared because he will be popping back up. Unfortunately, in September, after only 5 months of dating, it's revealed that Stavros is having an affair with Paris Hilton, one of Mary-Kate's best friends. So that's gotta hurt. At that point, she broke things off with him, of course, and she left NYU. She did a leave of absence for a while, went to LA to pursue acting. She said later, though, that the leave of absence was actually because she didn't really feel safe on campus. There was constantly people who were selling stories and pictures of her to the tabloids, some even for internships that they had with tabloids in New York. So that doesn't really seem like the type of environment you'd want to be in. I mean, if I thought that people were going to write stories about how grubby I looked for class, I probably wouldn't want to go to class either. And yes, I'm sure that her stories were not about her looking grubby, but still. And it does seem like she didn't actually come back, though. Looks like she just dropped out of NYU at that point, which, who needs college anyways when you're Mary-Kate? There were also rumors that her and Stavros got back together for a while, but it obviously didn't work out in the end. Because how could it? How could it after you betrayed her like that? Ashley starts dating Greg Chait in September of 2005. He is 27. She's 19. Still a pretty big age gap. He was a designer and a CEO, and there was also these like random rumors that popped up in 2006 that he was seen kissing Mary-Kate. Or was it Ashley? How would you know? They're twins. How would you know? Anyways, there's rumors, nothing confirmed. I'm guessing that did not happen. More importantly, in 2006, they started their fashion line, The Row. And this was not Walmart, okay? This was couture. And they've said it was Ashley's big idea. She was studying architecture and psychology, but apparently she couldn't stop thinking about how there just wasn't a perfect basic t-shirt out there. So she made one. And she said she's very good at seeing a void, a gap in the market. And of course, Mary-Kate was very helpful and supportive, and it became their thing together. And Ashley was definitely more on the business side of it, and Mary-Kate's a little bit more on the creative side. But this was not like Walmart. They wanted to do this for themselves, not for their brand, but really because they believed in it and they wanted to wear those clothes as well. And they weren't interested in making people universally love it or making the item super popular. They just wanted it to be something that they liked, which is great. And they actually didn't do any press for it or broadcast it as their own at all, because in their mind, if it was good, it will sell. And of course, it did sell. And people found out that Mary-Kate and Ashley were running it, and it sold even more. It was very focused on basics and very wearable, high-quality pieces, and people were very obsessed with their style at this point. So, of course, they loved the stuff they were putting out. They were really creating their own style at this point. It was kind of boho and a little bit edgy, but also understated and cool and chic. And Mary-Kate was a little bit more bold of a dresser than Ashley, but they still definitely had very unique styles, and people were loving it. This was also a big move for them in separating themselves from all the other celebrities around their age at this time, because, you know, Lindsay Lohan and Amanda Bynes and all these other celebrities that were also in their age range, they were not dressing like this. They were not creating fashion lines. This was all them. It was unique and specific to what they wanted to do, and it just worked. It just worked. And here is Mary-Kate's new boyfriend, Max Snow. It's October 2006, and Max Snow is an oil heir and also a photographer, and we know Mary-Kate was very into photography, so works. As in most of their relationships, she kept it very private and very away from the media, so we don't know a lot about it, but apparently there were rumors that Ashley was not a fan of Max and thought that he was a lowlife. In the beginning of 2007, Ashley and Greg Chait break up. Apparently it was commitment issues. She wanted something long-term. He wasn't ready for something long-term. They'd been dating for 2 years at this point. They reached a crossroads. They didn't pass it. And Mary-Kate and Max Snow also ended up breaking up in 2007. In August, Mary-Kate takes a role on Weeds. She had said that she wanted to pursue acting again, and she wanted more adult roles, and this was her first one, and she was playing a Jesus-loving pothead. Around this time, the twins had said together that if they were going to work again on movies together, it would be producing or in some other capacity, but not acting. But Mary-Kate was doing a lot of auditions. She clearly had a renewed interest in acting, but she was interested only in real roles. She said that in their childhood, those roles were kind of like silly, just for kids. She wanted to do something of substance. And after this role in Weeds, she had a couple more roles, but nothing huge for a while. Also in 2007, we find out that Ashley drops out of NYU, or it seems like she does around this time. And in the fall, they start their third fashion line, Elizabeth and James. And of course, Elizabeth is their younger sister, James is their older brother. That's where they got the name, and it was a very vintage-inspired line. They said that there was actually like a storyline of a young girl and boy relationship, and they were telling a story through the clothes. So they were playing with a lot of like yin yang, masculine, feminine energy in the clothing. They were both working on it, and they said that sometimes one of them would come into the office, make a bunch of decisions, and then the other one would come in a few days later and change all of those decisions. So they had to do a lot of compromising on the line and make sure that it suited both of their styles and both of their visions. They also made Lauren Hutton the face of this line, which was a very interesting choice because she was 64 at the time, which is pretty old for a model. But they really wanted to stress that the brand was for all ages, all people. Even though they're super young and fashion icons, anyone can wear these looks. And they were more affordable than the Row, which was very high-end prices. It is October of 2007. Mary-Kate starts dating Heath Ledger, who is 28 at the time. She's 21. It was definitely not exclusive. It was just casual. In fact, we know that he was seeing other girls around that time as well. But they were very close. Apparently, they started out as just party friends. They liked to go around to the same type of clubs, do the same kind of stuff. Don't know what that stuff was, but they did. And, of course, he died later. While they were still dating, they had been seeing each other for about 3 months at that time. Before we get to that, though, quick note on Ashley. In November of 2007, she was said to be dating Lance Armstrong, who was 36 at the time, and they were spotted around New York City making out. And there was also a rumor that his daughter brought her for show and tell. Like, Ashley Olsen was her show and tell person, I guess, at school, which is an awesome show and tell, but also a very, very strange thing to do. Not something that I wouldn't do, because I would do it, but a strange thing to do. But ultimately, they had to break up. Apparently, a lot of people were telling Lance that he needed to dump her because the age difference was not very good for his image. So the whole time that they were supposedly in a relationship, he denied it and said they were just friends. Anyways, at the beginning of 2008, Heath Ledger passes away. His masseuse finds him. And when she finds him, she calls Mary-Kate twice. Not 911, Mary-Kate. Apparently, Mary-Kate was on his speed dial on his phone, so when the masseuse picked up his phone to call somebody, she saw Mary-Kate and just dialed her number to see what she should do. Which, you know what you should do. You should call the ambulance, unless there's something seedy about this death, like drug-related or something like that, which is what people started to think because she called Mary-Kate instead of the ambulance. Mary-Kate said that she would call her private security team to come and get him or help him or whatever. And in the meantime, the masseuse was shaking him, trying to wake him up. And when it was clear that he was gone, she called Mary-Kate again and said she was going to call 911. And Heath did OD. He was found with drugs, and a lot of people assumed that Mary-Kate might be supplying him drugs because that would make a lot more sense why the masseuse would be calling her to say, like, hey, you might be implicated in a crime because I'm about to have to call 911. Still, I think calling 911 would have been a better move first, but maybe she just panicked. I don't know. So Mary-Kate's lawyers issued a bunch of statements saying she has no idea where the drugs were from. She didn't even know he was doing drugs. She had nothing to do with it. If she was partying with him all the time, I feel like maybe that's a stretch. Maybe she did at least know kind of where he was getting them or had some idea about it, but we don't know. She was subpoenaed to testify, but her lawyers said, she's not saying anything to y'all unless she's granted immunity from prosecution, which could be sketchy, but also could just be a smart legal move. It is a smart legal move because you don't know how people are going to frame things. So it's probably just a smart legal move, but I'm just leaving it in there. And the investigation was closed, so we will never know what really happened there. In the meantime, though, Ashley is spotted making out and holding hands with one Jared Leto at an art museum. Not too long after breaking up with Lance Armstrong and Greg Chait, which was like a 2-year relationship. And Ashley said, no, we're just friends. Okay, Ashley. Then in May, Ashley starts dating Justin Bartha, and I'm not positive that I'm saying his last name correctly. Whatever, we all know him. He's in The Hangover. He was 30 at the time. She was 22. And people even thought they were engaged at one point, but they were not. Also in 2008, they published their first coffee table book, which was called Influence. It was interviews with people in the fashion industry that they really looked up to, and they specifically said that they did not want the book to just be about themselves, although they did have pages with little tidbits about them and photos, but mostly they were interviewing people, and they were extremely nervous to do this, they said, but they loved doing it. They felt really weird interviewing people because usually they're on the other side, but they said it was incredibly fun for them. Then in October, Mary-Kate starts dating Nate Lohman, who was 29 at the time. She's still 22. And they met through mutual friends. He's an artist. They were together for about 2 years. They split in 2010, and apparently she moved on very quickly afterwards. She wasn't too broken up about it. In 2009, Ashley says never say never when she's asked about acting again. And she did make a couple movie appearances, but nothing huge. And then in the spring of 2010, they launched their fourth fashion line at JCPenney. It's called Olsen Boy. It was named after their Norwegian ancestors' original last name, and it was for tweens and teens, very affordable, very brand safe and appropriate and lighthearted, very consumer focused. Again, here's Mary-Kate in her role that she played in Beastly in 2011. It was really a small role. She was the witch student that the main character plays a prank on, and then she curses him and makes him a beast. Y'all remember this movie? With Alex Pettyfer? And I don't know if anybody else remembers it like this, but I remember like a craze over this man going on in my school. Maybe it was just because I was in an all-girls school, but people were loving him. And of course, Vanessa Hudgens was also in it. Anyways, back to Mary-Kate. Alex Pettyfer said that when she was in her hair and makeup for the movie, she really made him nervous. It was like a bit scary. And he talked about her big green eyes unnerving him. Very much gives me like fan fiction vibes. Her green orbs. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that you had to hear that come out of my mouth. Anyways, this was her final time acting, pretty much. I'm not sure if she stopped loving it or if it just wasn't as appealing when they weren't twins. Maybe she really liked doing it with her, but she said in an interview the year before that she still looked at scripts and she was just way more focused on fashion, but if the right thing came along, then she would do that. So maybe she just hasn't found the right thing, but it's no longer her main career, of course. And around that same time, Ashley and Justin break up after 3 years. Apparently, the fame of The Hangover got to him, and he was not acting the same. Reportedly, he was also partying a lot, and she really wanted to settle down, so she was not into it. He still speaks very highly of her, though. Apparently, dating her was his first real dose of paparazzi and fame, which, of course, because she's Ashley Olsen. And there were rumors afterwards that she was hooking up with Johnny Depp. But the person we really saw her with after they broke up was, guess who? Jared Leto! They were just seen getting flirty together, which I don't think is a surprise at this point. He keeps popping up. He's a space filler man. Then in July of 2011, they do a partnership with Style Mint, which was basically you would register as members, take style surveys for monthly subscription. We see this all the time today. It's kind of like Fabletics-esque, I guess. They were designing and styling t-shirts and creating videos for the site, and they also did jewelry as well. Then in 2012, Mary-Kate and Ashley both indicate that they're pretty much done with acting. Ashley said she felt really good about being on the other side of the camera, not having to be the center of attention and be judged only on looks, and talent being the only factor, really. And she said she was still interested in the way that Hollywood worked, but not in the acting part of it. And Mary-Kate was also happy outside of the spotlight since Beastly. And here is Mary-Kate's new man. In the spring of 2012, she starts dating Olivier Sarkozy. It's French, and I don't know if I'm saying that right. He's also 43, and she's 26. He was an investment banker and also the half-brother of a former French president. And even though there was a 17-year age gap, people said that actually Mary-Kate even seemed younger than her actual age, which just makes it even worse. But she was immediately really into him, super in love, and apparently people said that she loved the idea of being rescued by him. Basically, he was offering security, a quiet family life, maturity, and she wanted all of that. And apparently she fell hard. She fell hard for that security, that quiet life that she wanted, and gave him her all. He was a little bit more distant at first, though. He had been married before, so I think he wanted to take it slow. His ex-wife also was not thrilled by this pairing at all. She said that the age gap was grotesque. Which I think some other people were also thinking, but coming from the ex-wife, that stings. In 2013, they came out with their 5th fashion line, which was with Tik Tok, which is a Norwegian brand. It was very inexpensive, and it was very grungy, neutral, minimal, focused on fabric and quality, and they created like a whole wardrobe full of staples for it. They actually ended up doing 3 collections for Tik Tok, and those were all only in the Scandinavian countries, so sucks for us. In September of 2013, Ashley starts dating David Schulte, who's the CEO of an eyewear brand, and they broke up in less than a year. And then in February of 2014, we see Ashley with Bennett Miller, who is 48 and she's 28. They got together only 1 month after her split with David, and he is a director. He directed Moneyball, if anyone's seen that movie. They kept their relationship extremely private, though. One of the only times that people saw them, and I'm pretty sure where this photo is from, is at Philip Seymour Hoffman's funeral, and a couple other times. But it only lasted a year before they broke up. Around that same time, though, we suddenly see Mary-Kate out and about, and what is that on her ring finger? I'll tell you what it is. It is a vintage Cartier engagement ring. Yes, Olivier proposed, and apparently he proposed a year before, and she said no, which is interesting because he was the one who wanted to take things slow in the beginning, but I guess you fall in love. And she never confirmed the engagement, but we all saw, how are we gonna miss this ring? It is fucking huge. Anyways, apparently they were also talking about having kids, and it's 2015 now. Fuller House is announced, and the twins confirmed that they would not be in the reboot. For a second there, though, there was rumors that they actually might be in it after they had said no, but ultimately the answer was no because they said no. And Ashley said that she would feel weird being in front of the camera, and they really just both wanted to focus on the Row, which seems to be their main brand. In November, Mary-Kate and Olivier get married. And at first, Mary-Kate wasn't going to do a prenup because I guess she fell so in love that she forgot that she's incredibly wealthy and successful. But Ashley said, no. Ashley stepped in, she insisted that they do a prenup, and they fought a ton about it, but ultimately, Ashley got her way, thank God, and they did a prenup. They had a small wedding, of course, and you even had to turn your phone in at the beginning of the wedding. They didn't want any photos taken, getting sent to the media or anything like that. They also had bowls and bowls of cigarettes out at their wedding, apparently, and were smoking all night, which is interesting because the wedding was indoors. This was not an outside party, so just try and imagine what the quality of air was like in that wedding. Especially if you don't smoke, like, my lungs are just seizing thinking of that. And at this point, after marrying him, she has 2 stepkids, so she's doing family stuff too, in addition to being Mary-Kate Olsen. And speaking of kids, she has said previously that she would not want to put her children in show business. She had children, and she would not wish her childhood on anyone, apparently. She describes their acting as little monkey performers, and it's sad because it seems like they didn't enjoy it, like they were there for us to enjoy, but they weren't having as much fun, which that makes me not want to watch those things because it makes me sad. I don't know. I just always thought they were having fun with us, you know? Then in June, Ashley starts dating George Condo, who is a 59-year-old artist, and she's 30. He actually did the album artwork for Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy album, and he had just divorced his wife a year ago, who apparently Mary-Kate and Ashley were somewhat friends with. They, invited her to shows and stuff, and He had also worked on some of the twins' fashion brands before, so that was probably a little bit awkward, but it didn't work out, so I can put that behind us, probably. Probably. Then in October, Ashley started dating Richard Sachs, who was an art dealer. He was 58. Maybe he knows George. Apparently, he formerly worked in finance, and they were very private about their relationship, as usual, and they split up after a year because Ashley wanted to work on fashion. They did actually remain friends, though. And it is 2016. So Mary-Kate and Ashley decide to make David Schulte, yes, this David Schulte, who was Ashley's ex, president of the Row. Networking, I guess. He was very good for the brand, though. They grew a lot. He added a menswear section. They opened a ton of stores, so good for them. In October of 2017, we find out that Ashley has a new dude. His name is Louis Eisner, and he is an artist. Apparently, they met through mutual high school friends, and they were friends for quite a while before they started dating. And interestingly enough, he is 29, and she was 31 when they started dating. So a younger man, which is completely off-brand, dating-wise for them. They both are extremely private about the relationship, of course, but she has been seen on his Instagram stories, so they seem to be doing well. They also had an interview with ID Magazine in 2019. Mary-Kate and Ashley did, not Ashley and Louis, where they pretty much just confirmed what we all knew, which was that they like to keep their life private, but they're having a good life. Things abruptly become not private, though, in May of 2020 when Mary-Kate files for an emergency divorce from Olivier. She said that she felt the relationship had broke down irretrievably, and apparently he no longer wanted to renew the lease on the apartment they shared together, and had moved his ex-wife and kids into the Hamptons home that they had together, which is just rude. So it was very urgent for her because she thought that he was going to kick her out and also get rid of all of her stuff, so she needed that divorce quick. Luckily, there wasn't too much to fight about because they had a prenup. Thanks, Ashley. But they did fight over the multi-million-dollar townhome that they had because I'm sure it was amazing because it was a multi-million-dollar townhome. I'm not sure who ended up getting it. I, of course, hope that Mary-Kate ended up getting it because I'm Team Olsen always. Or at least for this series, I am. And Mary-Kate reportedly stayed with Ashley for quite a while during the breakup and afterwards, which is very sweet. And Elizabeth, their younger sister, was also there for her a lot. Then in August of 2020, we get some engagement rumors about Ashley and Louis. And then David Schulte leaves his position as president of the Row pretty abruptly a few months later. Then David decides to sue not only the Row, but also Mary-Kate and Ashley, and Dual Star. And we have no idea why, because it's under seal, so we'll never know. But obviously, money has something to do with it. And I don't know, maybe he held a secret candle for Ashley still and was just kind of hoping that this whole thing would dissolve and they could be together again. I don't know. That's my twisted little fan fiction mind running. But we have no idea. I'm sure that's not it. So rumors, as of February of this year, is that Mary-Kate is dating John Cooper. John Cooper must die? No. John Cooper, of CEO of Brightwire, some financial something, I don't know. Apparently they started dating a month after she finalized her divorce, but of course that would have been much longer since her and Olivier were separated and done with. Supposedly they're taking it slow, but enjoying it, so I wish her all the best on that. And Ashley's still dating Louis Eisner, as far as we know. They're still doing fashion, of course, and they rarely give interviews, but occasionally they do. They don't use social media. They don't shop online, which I can't even imagine. They really try to keep their lives very private. Of course, the no social media thing, that's very helpful, but they also have to keep away from paparazzi. They really hate getting paparazzi shots taken of them, so pretty much all the shots you see, they're either unhappy or they're hiding. And they have said that they don't regret their childhood, but of course, that is a lot. Like, we just went through all of that. Just doing this series was a lot. So I can only imagine actually having made all of those movies, all of that merchandise. They had a crazy, cool childhood career, but that's a lot. And they are working, but of course it's not a typical 9 to 5. It's a fashion job. So I'm imagining like Devil Wears Prada. I'm sure it's not like that, but that's what I want to imagine for them. Okay, this is more what I was envisioning, the Devil Wears Prada look. I don't know anything about the fashion industry, so I am probably wrong. Don't feel free to not break that to me in the comments. I'm good. Anyways, thank you for watching this. It took me a very long time to create. They've had very long and full lives, which I'm so happy for them for, but it took a lot of researching and filming. And if you watched this video, thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment any additions you might have or any thoughts or opinions. I'd love to hear them, as well as any series suggestions or new video suggestions in general. And if you want to see more of me and more of my series, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week with another one.